I'm afraid I have to start with some apologies to you because in the last hour I realized I couldn't open my presentation, my extended version of my presentation in a Word document. So my presentation will be rather blunt, and I will, forced by these circumstances, I will have to speak more or less freely, which I hate because I saw many of you, eigentlich, although native speakers speaking or reading and so on, and of course your ideas were crystal clear and so on. It's not my case, so that's why I wanted to start with these apologies. Yeah, Roma Discourse on the Holocaust, Compensation, 1980s Communist Romania. Unlike pretty many other presentations so far, I think my presentation has to do more with politics, not so much with individual compensation claims. And when I say politics, I also talk about the local context, because in Eastern European countries, and of course I'm talking first of all about Romania, which was a very strict national communist dictatorship, nothing could happen without the control of state, yeah? More precisely, without the control of the secret service, yeah? So basically what I'm going to talk about has to do with my research, mostly conducted in the archives of the Romanian Secret Service, yeah? So I had some brilliant ideas, yeah? I wanted to make use of some photos, yeah? Because I wanted to oppose some photos of Romani Rose, for example, yeah? Zentralrat Deutsche Sinti und Roma, Dokumentationszentrum, and so on, who in the last decades has become one of the most important, I would say, in the Roma history and so on. And I had some images, yeah, and I'm sure some of you are familiar with these photos, like Bergen-Belsen, yeah, 1979, hunger strike, marches, yeah, in Dachau and so on. Yeah, Romani Rose meeting different federal chancellors, yeah, like Helmut Schmidt, then like Helmut Kohl, those debates in the Bundestag in the 1980s, yeah? And as a Romanian, of course, I wanted to make use of some photos from the Romanian archives, yeah? But I realized I couldn't, and maybe we should talk about that a bit. Although the Romanian Roma movement was very important in the interwar period, in the communist period, yeah, in Romania, nothing like that existed anymore. So the Roma were not allowed, were not recognized as an ethnic minority, yeah. And this happened in Eastern Europe, but maybe in Romania it was even harsher as that. So of course you had all these images with Romani Rose and German Sinti Bewegung and movement and so on, and based on compensation. And on the other hand, yeah, we had some photos with Romanian Roma leaders we are going to talk about during my presentation, like Nicolae Gheorghe, who was a famous Romanian sociologist, Romanian Roma sociologist, or Ion Cioaba and so on. But those were rather domestic photos, like domestic activities, like Gheorghe picking up his kids from the kindergarten, or you know, talking with some friend of his, like a French anthropologist working in the 1980s in Romania. So nothing comparable, yeah? And this is a bit frustrating, but has to do a lot with the local context, which shouldn't be ignored for Romania. I won't say for Eastern European countries, because I don't know the situation that well, but at least in Romania, everything was controlled to a large extent by the secret service, yeah? So, as I said, we have so far these approaches concerning victims and German compensation authorities. Victims or Vereine or different organizations of victims, you know, fighting for recognition, for compensation, and so on. We have these sorts of intermediaries. In Romania, I'm afraid, at least in the case of the Roma for the 1980s, we have, okay, Roma victims. You have, if you want, the German compensation authorities, but I wouldn't talk that much about that. But you have as an intermediary the Romanian authorities, yeah? And to understand what I'm going to talk about, hopefully in my 20 minutes, we should talk a bit about, I would say, the hypocrisy or the pragmatism or the cynical pragmatism of the Romanian authorities concerning this compensation. And that has to do with several things. First of all, what happened in Romania during the Holocaust, yeah? Secondly, attempts or other attempts of the Romanian Secret Service to obtain money from Western states, yeah, because this compensation politics, I would say, has to do with this cynical approach of the Romanian authorities, yeah. And thirdly, to talk a bit about Roma, yeah. Did I lose you, or are you still with me? Or okay, good. So, Holocaust in Romania, World War II. Romania was not occupied by Nazi Germany, yeah, unlike even Hungary, yeah, even Poland, France, and so on. Romania was a sovereign state, was responsible, legally seen, yeah, and as an ally of Nazi Germany, Romania took its own anti-Semitic measures or had its own anti-Semitic legislation and so on, and of course deported hundreds of thousands of Jews and 25,000 Romanian Roma to Transnistria, yeah? Many of them dying there. So, okay, we have this. We don't have so much the German responsibility, we have the Romanian responsibility. What happened afterwards? During communism, the Holocaust was rather ignored or minimized, yeah? The part played by the Romanian state was denied or minimized. The guilt ascribed to the Germans, Hungarians, to some utterly unrepresentative marginals in the Romanian society. Focus was on Transylvania, which during the war was part of Hungary, and of course everybody could say these horrible Germans and Hungarians and so on, and of course we could hope to get some money from them, yeah? While neglecting Transnistria, because Transnistria was part of Romania. So you have this kind of attitudes, yeah? So the deportation of Transnistria, then occupied and administered by Romania, remained largely unknown for the mass part of the communist regime. Romanian Securitate and hard currency. Securitate is the name of the Secret Service, the Romanian. Romanian state was highly interested in whatever could bring Western money, as proved by numerous actions initiated by the Secret Service. The selling of the Jews and Germans, the Israeli and West German governments were paying money, serious money, to the Romanian authorities for them to allow these people leave the country and go to West Germany. The Operation Peregrini, the Wonders, the Operations Moștenirea, and so on. These are already older, in the 60s or even earlier, 50s, 60s actions, yeah, for money. All needs new possibilities. 1967, West Germany resumed diplomatic relations with Romania. Romania was the second state, communist state, resuming diplomatic relations after the Soviet Union with Germany. And that offered Romania some space to negotiate, yeah, or to hope for better, yeah, for more money, if you want, yeah. The Romanian authorities became interested in the compensation the survivors, Jews, Roma, others. In the beginning, they were more interested in the Jewish survivors, were believed to be entitled to, yeah. In October 1968, the Securitate decided to explore other possibilities to obtain money from West Germany. Operation Gratitude, yeah. Actions towards obtaining pensions from West Germany for the Romanian citizens that were Germans and had been enrolled in the Wehrmacht during the war. The Operation The Monument, yeah. Funds from West Germany for the maintenance of the tombs of the German militaries killed on the Romanian territories. And this, finally, the Operation Recolta, the harvest, different actions in West Germany, I quote, in order to make up for the material and moral harm caused by the German Nazis to the Jewish ethnics from Romania, who, according to a recent law, were entitled to receive indemnities from West Germany. Yeah? This was a state-run business. Yeah? At the beginning of the 1970s, investigations that led to the identification of more than 150,000 victims of persecutions during the war. This didn't imply, on behalf of the Romanian state, any responsibility. On contrary, yeah? The interest, I mean, to get money, you have to pay attention and to underline the responsibility of the others. Yeah? And this is the hypocrisy of the Romanian authorities, because they wanted to get money from the Germans, from the West Germans, also for the crimes or for what happened at the hands of the Romanian perpetrators. Yeah, of course, until the fall of communism, there was no payment. The Romanians tried in the 70s as well, but we won't talk that much about Jews and in Romania in the 70s. We'll jump to the Roma and communist Romania. Yeah, so as I said, they were not recognized as a national minority. That means no opportunities to organize collectively, not represented in the administration, couldn't influence the policies that affected them. Yeah, they made efforts to become partners, if you want, for the authorities and to express more or less directly ethnic aspirations. Huh? That was, you know, as a characteristic for the communist period. But what about 1980s? Can we talk about this change from objects to subjects? Well, I would say, with the benefit of hindsight, rather not. But still, they did their best. The Roma activists, yeah. So there were some changes, and there was some empowerment, if you want, mainly thanks to this Roma Bewegung, Roma movement abroad. Yeah, the German one played an important role, and I would say the German compensation was an important trigger in this story. So we have in 1971 the creation of the International Roma Union. Yeah, and I realize I'm running out of time, so I won't say everything. Yeah, you have the chance to read it. I'm sorry. So. This was in the 1970s. Yeah, you had okay, the internationalization of this issue. Yeah, compensation, German compensation for Roma. Yeah, Sinti und Roma. Yeah, in West Germany, but also in Western Europe, and why not also in Eastern Europe? Yeah, behind the Iron Curtain. So this is the 70s, 80s, new interest of the Roma activists abroad and new discussions in the early 1980s with regard to recognition of the Roma as victims of the Holocaust and the new German compensation programs. And there were already these discussions and meetings and so on. And finally, cooperation of the Roma leaders from Romania with their counterparts from abroad. Yeah, you had activists, Roma activists, some of them still alive, important ones like Jan Hancock, in the 1980s, responsible at the what was to become the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. Romani Rose, Paxton still alive, Juric died a year ago. So they contacted Roma leaders and recommended them to become more active in trying to obtain this compensation, yeah, this German compensation. Of course, they kept themselves updated about Holocaust-related topics. Yeah. So, and very important, finally in 1981, in May, in Göttingen, takes place the Third International Roma Union Congress. And you have Romani Rose, who was elected as the vice president of this International Roma Union, and you have so many other 18 representatives of, you know, Roma from different countries, and one of them was a certain Ion Trouble, who was a rather illiterate Roma leader, coming from a traditional society, community, yeah, Calderar, who himself had been deported to Transnistria, a survivor of these deportations, and who worked quite well with this Roma intellectual who was to become very influential, Nicolae Gheorghe, and so on. Very important, the Romanian authorities in the 1980s did not discourage this as long as they were the Roma were under surveillance and proved useful. Yeah, and this is the idea. Unlike Romani Rose, we talked about in the beginning, with his power and his liberty, yeah, to act. Well, all these gestures would have been unimaginable, yeah, for for Romania at least, yeah. So, on the whole, the Roma leaders couldn't afford to be very vocal, rather the opposite. So, what they did was, although they spoke a language quite similar to that used by their counterparts in Western Europe, accusing German and so on, they were quite pragmatic because they didn't depend actually on these Western Germans, West German Roma or Sinti, yeah, or on the international Roma. What they needed was the support coming from the Romanian authorities. And their attitude, I'm simplifying a lot here, was to try to make themselves useful for the Romanian state and to say to them, look, give us the opportunity to organize ourselves. because this is one condition which has to be fulfilled in order to get the money. Yeah, and our colleague from Hungary told us in the beginning about these exchange rates, yeah, like 30,000 marks, Deutsche marks, who were exchanged for like, I don't know, 200 or something, yeah. These were ideas the Romanian authorities, the Romanian secret services knew very well and applied already for other, you know, ways of getting money. So coming back to Roma, the idea was very simple. We're not recognized by you, the Romanian state. We want to be recognized. And everything maybe should be seen also in very pragmatic terms. We could be useful. One condition, I repeat, is to be recognized, to get the right to organize ourselves. You can get the money, yeah. I have just seen, I have like 4 minutes, which means that I have to renounce, so I'm at the 7th slide. Recognize us, because if you recognize us, the Germans will pay compensation. Don't you want the money from the Germans? So, put it very simple, this was the whole idea. Huh? Again, the temptation is to imagine everything, or rather quite a lot in terms of empowerment, of awakening, of, you know, national, of Roma fighting for. But what if, actually, in the beginning at least, those who acted and tried to make the Roma become active to apply for compensation, what if this actor was actually the Romanian Secret Service? Yeah, and we have 1981 in May. We have this Romanian Roma leader who was elected as member of the International Roma Union, who, in a report given a few days later, after coming back from Germany, he says, I quote, the EU circulated materials claiming that the Germans had exterminated 500,000 Roma from Yugoslavia, Poland, and so on. The deportation of Romanian Roma Transnistria were not mentioned at Göttingen. Although Ciobă didn't seem very interested in the subject, the Securitate officers who read his report, aware of the recent Operation Harvest, saw an opportunity and tried to seize it by mobilizing Ciobă to act. The Secret Service recommended that he raise some compensation claims in the upcoming International Roma Union Presidium meeting. It was, I quote, decided that in June, the Congress Presidium would meet in Budapest to take a decision. Ciobă is part of this Presidium. As an idea, we discussed the opportunity of making some claims on behalf of the Romanian side. Ciobă declared that if we find such cases, he would raise the question, this question without any hesitation. Well, because I don't have time, there is this risk of simplifying and imagining that all these happened, or the Roma were nothing but you know, objects and so on. It's wrong, because there is a very interesting interplay. You have the Roma activists. Yeah, we can talk about this discourse as part of the Romanian Roma identity marker, how they refer to the Holocaust and compensation and so on, because it would have been, I repeat, they were not allowed to organize, they were not recognized as an ethnic minority and so on. What the Roma could do, these activists, a few activists, was to try to convince those they depended on, yeah, namely the Romanian authorities, that they could prove useful for money. Yeah? So instead of talking about awakening and so on, I would say more, I would pay more attention to this complex interplay between Romanian Roma elites, Romanian Roma survivors, yeah, but we don't have time. Could also compare to the Jewish case. Romanian Roma elites, Roma elites from Europe, and so on. Romanian Roma elites, Romanian state authorities. Everybody was interested in focusing on German responsibility and compensation rather than on Romanian responsibility. The International Roma Union had no interest whatsoever in Romanian compensation. They would have never got such a thing. Romanian Roma even less. They depend on the Romanian authorities. Romanian authorities also interested in German compensation. Yeah, and these are some cases. 1983, Ciobă was finally allowed to leave communist Romania and to travel to Yugoslavia, to travel to Italy, where he met some important Roma leaders or personalities involved in the Roma movement. And Mirela Carpati from Rome convinced him to publish in Lazio Rome an article, which was also sent to the Pope. Yeah, and here is very interesting because there, and I underline, the German soldiers, as he published this, took our cards with everything in them. Those who opposed were mercilessly shot. For 2 days, we were deprived of food and water. After 2 days, the German soldiers came and said, then the elder and the sick were shot. Retreat of the Germans. The Germans is back, if they were seen by the Germans, they were mercilessly shot and crushed by tanks and so on. There is nothing like that. The Germans were not responsible for Romanian Roma deportations. All these would work quite well if we replace the Germans from this and instead have the Romanians, because the Romanians did all this. But Trouble was actually encouraged to describe his own deportation experience in Transnistria. And of course, he was interested to claim that Germany rather than Romania was responsible for these deportations. We had this case in 1983, 1984. Do I still have time?
No.
It's simple. Everything is getting quite simple. So similar ideas in his letter to the Hague International Court. In 1985, he also wrote to Helmut Kohl. 1989, as you can see, I skipped a few years, but even this, conclusions. As I said, I didn't have time to, transfer that, and maybe this is even better from the talk, from the word to this PowerPoint. But actually, the conclusions were those I wanted, and I approach a bit in my application. So I read. The main questions addressed in this paper are as follows. Did Romanian Roma activists create this Holocaust narrative in the 1980s for the Romanian authorities or for the Romanian communities? I try to say that actually for the Romanian authorities. And how closely did the narratives correspond to historical reality? Didn't, those who were responsible for this treatment and for these deportations were the Romanians, but in saying that, nothing could be hoped for. Romanian Roma activists were less interested in using the Holocaust as a way of constructing Romanian Romani identity than in drawing the attention of the Romanian authorities the potential benefits that the Roma, if allowed to organize collectively, could bring to the Romanian state. I didn't have time, but in 1983, 1984, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on, this is a current idea. Roma organizations, the Germans will pay like 4 million German marks, 7 million German marks, and so on. Their discourse on compensation didn't originate from within the Roma communities in Romania, but rather from a few Roma activists connected to the international Roma movement. Neither was it created then for internal use as an identity marker for the Roma, as this wouldn't have been possible for the 1980s Romanian nationalist communist dictatorship. It was created primarily for external use, especially for Romanian authorities, whom it could make, as I said, I said that already. So, if you have questions, please leave my presentation,